All right, so we're diving into the let them theory today. You guys shared Mel Robbins' interview on the Jay Shetty podcast, and we're going to figure this thing out together, right? Like, how do we actually use this mindset shift in our lives? It seems like it can help with so much more than just stress, you know? It's about understanding why we try to control the things that we absolutely can't and what happens when we let go.
One of the most interesting things that I found about this is this idea that research suggests that if you live across the hall from somebody, like in an apartment complex or dorm, you're more likely to be friends with them. Isn't that weird?
It is weird. Why? Why would that be?
Well, we're going to dive into that too. What's so fascinating about the let them theory is it's so incredibly simple, and yet it's surprisingly profound. Like
Yeah.
it's literally a two-word phrase, but it can completely change how you look at everything, from like frustrations at work to, issues in your relationships.
Yeah. Okay, so let's break it down. Like what's the core idea here?
Okay, so the core idea is that um, let them acknowledges that we can't control other people. Like, period.
Yeah.
It's not about giving up or just being passive. It's about recognizing that the only things we have real power over are our own thoughts, our actions, and how we react to things.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that would be super helpful, but isn't that basically just the same thing as let it go? I feel like I hear that everywhere.
It's a really good question, and Mel Robbins talks about this a lot. She says that let it go can feel passive, like you're just surrendering to whatever's happening.
Yeah.
you know. But let them, on the other hand, is about making a conscious choice to detach. You're not ignoring the problem. You're rising above it and reclaiming your energy, basically.
So it's like acknowledging the situation, but I'm not letting it like dictate how I feel. It's kind of like when you choose not to have a pointless argument, right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna opt out of the drama.
Exactly. Yeah, you're opting out. And, and that leads us to the second part of this theory that's often overlooked, and that's let me. So once you've let them be, you shift your focus to what you can control. Like,
Uh-huh.
how are you going to think about this? What are you going to do or not do? And how are you going to process the feelings that come up? Because they're definitely going to come up.
Right. It's so interesting too because Robbins argues that needing to control is actually hardwired into our brains. Like no wonder it's such a struggle sometimes to just let go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our brains are wired to crave control because it helps us feel safe. But often when we try to control other people, it actually backfires.
Yeah.
It creates more resistance and conflict.
Oh, that makes total sense. If you're like constantly micromanaging somebody, it's basically telling them like, I don't trust you to handle this yourself.
Right.
That's just going to make them want to be more controlling.
Yeah.
And then it's just this power struggle.
Right? It is a power struggle. And on top of that, it's exhausting. That constant like vigilance, that strategy, that actually triggers your stress response, which puts your body into a fight or flight state. And over time, that chronic stress leads to burnout and all kinds of health problems.
It's not just like an emotional drain, it's physical too, right?
Yeah.
No wonder I feel so depleted when I get stuck in that whole cycle of trying to control. I love that Robbins uses that image of like paying someone $1 for every thought that you waste on their behavior. Like, wow, that hit home.
It's such a powerful way to think about it because it highlights the cost of focusing on things we can't control. Like we're literally just spending our time, our energy on something that isn't serving us at all.
Okay, so we talked about the theory, but how does it work, like practically? Robbins gives examples of situations at work and in relationships, right?
Yeah, she gives a bunch of really, really relatable examples. So for instance, imagine that a colleague takes credit for your idea during a meeting. Like it would be really easy to get caught up in anger and frustration. But instead of letting those emotions control you, Robin says, let them.
Hold on, so I'm pausing the situation in my mind. Let them take credit. So I'm acknowledging that it happened, but I'm not getting caught up in like how unfair it was.
Exactly, yeah. You're detaching from the emotional reaction,
Yeah.
which creates space to ask that let me question. Like,
Yeah.
what can I do to make sure my contributions are recognized next time?
Okay, so instead of getting stuck on what they did, I'm focusing on what I can do about it. That already feels so much better.
I know, right? It's so much more proactive.
Yeah.
So maybe that means documenting your ideas better, or speaking up more in meetings, or talking to your boss about better ways to showcase your work. So you're taking your energy and you're focusing it on solutions that empower you instead of getting stuck in that blame game.
This is like a total perspective shift. Instead of feeling like the victim, I'm taking back my power and creating positive change.
And that's the beauty of the let them theory. It's about recognizing that while you can't control other people's actions, You can always choose how you respond.
And this applies to our relationships too, right?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest takeaways from that interview, I think, is this idea of accepting people as they are. Let them allows you to really see people clearly without trying to change them, which, let's face it, we've all tried to do at some point.
Oh, yeah, big time. But let them doesn't mean you have to put up with bad behavior, does it?
Right, you're right. It doesn't mean being a doormat. It means recognizing that you can't change somebody unless they want to change, you know? You're just letting go of the expectation that you can force them to be different.
Okay, so it's more about shifting my expectations than like manipulating their behavior. Can you give me an example?
So Robbins and Shetty talk about that classic example of, like, the partner who leaves dirty dishes in the sink. You've asked them a million times to clean up, but nothing changes, so you're frustrated, they get defensive.
Ugh, I have lived that. Tell me they have a solution.
The solution is to let them let me. You start by letting them be messy.
Hmm.
Their actions, they tell you what their priorities are, whether you like it or not. You're detaching from the need to control their behavior. And then you can ask yourself, what can I do about it?
I've never thought about it like that. So by letting them be messy, I'm actually giving myself permission to focus on what works for me. Maybe that means like having another honest conversation about how it makes me feel or setting some boundaries or, maybe even reconsidering if this is what I want in a relationship.
Exactly. And if their behavior consistently shows that your needs aren't a priority for them, then letting them be actually reveals that truth even more. And then you can decide what you want to do, whether it's adapting, compromising, or walking away.
This whole concept of letting go of expectations is like so powerful. And Robbins talks about how it applies to social media too, right? Which, I mean, feels so relevant these days.
Oh, yeah, social media is like a breeding ground for overthinking and worrying about what other people think. We post something and then immediately start obsessing over likes and comments.
It's like we hand over our self-worth to a bunch of strangers online, right? I know I've been there.
Oh, for sure, for sure. But the truth is, you just can't control what other people think. Let them have negative thoughts. You can't stop them. But what you can do is focus your energy on creating content that you're proud of, content that is authentically you, and then you just got to let go of that need for everybody to like it.
It's about like realizing that you can't please everybody and that your time and energy are way more valuable than, a like or a comment. I already feel later just thinking about it.
That's the power of let them. And we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore here, including how this can change your friendships.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. You mentioned earlier that research shows that if you live across the hall, you're more likely to be friends. So how does let them play into that? And what about all the other like weird challenges of adult friendships?
That's where it gets really, really interesting.
Oh, okay.
Robbins talks about the great scattering of adulthood, which is basically how making and keeping friends gets so much harder as we get older.
Ah.
She explains why, and surprisingly, let them is actually the key to navigating those shifts. We'll unpack all that in the next part of our deep dive. As we go deeper with this let them theory, um, I'm realizing that it's not just about letting go of control over other people. It's also about letting go of the control we try to have over how things turn out.
Yeah, that's so true. Like clinging to a specific outcome, hoping everybody loves that post I just made or whatever, it just sets me up for disappointment.
Exactly. And Robbins has this great phrase, let them reveal who they are. She's talking about paying attention to what people do, not just what they say. Like, think about it. If a friend is always breaking promises, their actions are kind of telling you who they are, no matter what they say.
Okay, yeah, that's a hard one. Like sometimes it's easier to make excuses for someone's behavior than to admit that maybe it's not just a one-time thing. Like maybe their actions really are showing you their priorities.
Yeah, it can be a tough truth to face.
Yeah.
But let them gives us that clarity. Like Jay Shetty brings up the example of a friend who's always lying. And Mel's like, well, that's their truth then.
Yeah.
Kind of harsh, but when we accept that,
Yeah.
then we can stop wasting all this energy trying to change them.
Okay, so let them is about accepting reality, even when it sucks. But does that mean I'm like stuck if someone's a bad friend or a bad partner?
Not at all. That's the whole let me part, right? Once you see the truth, then you get to choose how you move forward. Do you set boundaries? Do you see them less? Do you walk away?
It takes the focus off of them and puts it back on me. Like, how do I want to respond to this? Which is way more empowering.
It is, yeah. It's about knowing your worth and choosing relationships that match your values. And this is where it gets really interesting. Mel argues that we often make other people's success about us. And that creates competition where it doesn't need to be.
Oh, totally. This happens all the time on social media. It's so easy to compare yourself to others and feel like you're not good enough or you're not doing enough.
It's that scarcity mindset, right? Like there's not enough success or happiness to
Yes.
go around. But Robin says, let them be successful. Let them have the fancy car. Let them be happy
Yeah.
because their achievements don't take away from yours.
Wow, yeah. That's a huge mindset shift. Like, it's not a zero-sum game, right? Somebody else winning doesn't mean that I'm losing.
It's about recognizing that there's plenty of abundance to go around. And when we let go of comparing ourselves to others, then we can actually, learn from them, be inspired by them.
It's like their wins become a roadmap instead of a roadblock. That's a much better way to look at it. I'm seeing how this let them idea kind of connects everything, all these different parts of our lives.
Yeah, it's like this common thread. Mel says that we create so many problems by turning people into problems. We stress over what they think. We blame them for how we feel. We get jealous when they do well.
And really we're giving away all our power when we already have it. Let them is about taking that back.
Exactly. It reminds us that we're the ones in charge of how we think, how we act, and how we react. Which brings us back to let me.
Okay, yeah, remind me, what's that about? It's been a minute.
Let me is about action. It's about asking, what can I do right now to move forward? Robbins calls it forward emulation. This idea that when we physically move, we think more clearly. She even says, like, have those hard conversations while you're walking because it creates momentum.
I've never thought about it like that. So like the act of walking forward can help me emotionally move forward too. Huh, so maybe next time I have a tough conversation, I should like go for a walk.
Exactly. It gets you out of your head. Let me is also about backing off when you need to.
Backing off, you mean like backing off from trying to control the situation?
Yes, giving people space, especially when they're struggling. Think about it. If someone's constantly telling you what to do or how to feel, it's hard to figure things out for yourself. But when we back off, we create that space for them to grow.
I realize that I do that all the time, especially with my friends. Like I want to fix it for them, but maybe I'm actually preventing them from finding their own answers.
It's total natural to want to help, but sometimes the best thing we can do is trust that our friends and loved ones can figure things out, even if it takes a while.
Hmm.
Let them is about offering support without controlling or enabling.
And that's where Robbins's ABC approach comes in, right? Apologize, ask open-ended questions, back off, and then celebrate. It's so practical.
It's brilliant. The apology removes the pressure. Open-ended questions encourage self-reflection. Backing off gives them space. And celebrating wins reinforces the good stuff. It's support without smothering.
This is making so much sense, but I'm still curious about that friendship stuff, like the great scattering thing.
Yes, yes. The great scattering of adulthood. It's
Okay.
basically why it gets harder to make and keep friends as we get older. And let them is the key to dealing with those changes.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me everything. Why does it get harder and how can let them help? Okay, so last time you were telling me about the great scattering, right? Like why friendships get kind of complicated in adulthood.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of fascinating when you think about it. Like in childhood, even in college, it feels so easy to make friends. You're just surrounded by people who are like in the same stage of life, similar routines, tons of free time. Robin says, it's like friendship is a group sport then, almost. But then adulthood hits, and it's a whole different ball game.
I feel that it's like jobs, relationships, kids, people moving. Everybody's on a different timeline.
Yeah.
It's harder to keep up.
Exactly. And not only that, but our priorities change too. Like who we are as people changes, even how much energy we have for friendships. So that's kind of the great scattering. It's not so much that people are like purposefully drifting apart. It's just that life makes those easy connections harder to keep.
So it's more situational, not personal. But that doesn't make it any less sad when a friendship fades, right?
Oh, absolutely not. But Robbins gives us these three pillars to kind of understand adult friendships, and she calls them proximity, timing, and energy. And basically, if any one of those is out of whack, it's going to be a struggle to maintain that connection, even if you really care about the person.
Okay, so break those down for me. Proximity, that's just like physical location, right?
Yep. Remember that study about people living across the hall? That's proximity. You live near someone, you bump into them more often, you grab coffee, you do things spontaneously. But as we get older, people move for jobs or family or just because they want to try something new. So maintaining that proximity takes takes effort.
It's almost like a long distance relationship, you know. Sometimes it works out, but it takes more work for sure.
Yeah.
So what about timing?
Timing is all about being in a similar life stage. Like, if you're both single and you love going out dancing, your timing's great. Easy to connect because you have similar interests and you're available. But what if one of you gets married or has kids? All of a sudden your free time looks completely different, and it's harder to find that shared timing.
And I can see how that can lead to like resentment if one person feels like they're the one always having to change their schedule, you know?
Yeah.
What about energy? That one seems a bit more a bit harder to define.
Yeah, energy is about having the capacity for friendship,
Yeah.
emotionally, mentally. Like some stages of life are just way more demanding. Maybe you're starting a business or going through a divorce, dealing with a health issue. You just don't have the same energy to give, and that's okay.
So it sounds like the great scattering is kind of this combination of those external factors like distance and those internal factors like how much energy you have.
Exactly. And when we get this, we can start to apply let them to those friendships that are changing. Instead of taking it personally when a friend isn't as available, we can let them be where they are.
So I'm not assuming it's about me or the value of the friendship, but it's just life, right? Adulting is hard.
It is. And sometimes, letting them go through those changes, it actually makes it possible for the friendship to come back later.
Yeah.
Robbins even talks about like reaching out to people from your past just to see where they're at.
That's such a good idea. There's this friend I haven't talked to in years since college. Maybe I should reach out. So let them can help us like navigate friendships as they change. What about when we're trying to support friends and family, people we really care about?
This is where it gets powerful, especially when someone is going through a really difficult time. Mel emphasizes that true support is about creating an environment where they can heal, not about you trying to fix their problem.
I think my instinct is to jump in and try to like offer solutions. I just want to make things better. But I guess that could feel kind of intrusive, right? Or like I'm not really hearing what they're going through.
It's that let me trap again. We want to take control, but sometimes the most loving thing to do is just back off and let them feel what they're feeling. Remember the ABCs? Apologize, ask,
Yeah.
back off, celebrate.
Right, yeah. And I'm realizing that those ABCs are like a completely different way to offer support. Like the apology takes the pressure off. I might be like accidentally making them feel like they need to hurry up and feel better, you
Yeah.
know? And then asking open-ended questions that lets them share what they're feeling without me like judging.
And backing off shows them that you trust them to get through this, even if it's messy, right? It says, I'm here for you, but I'm not going to try to micromanage your healing.
And then celebrating those small wins, even if they seem small, it shows them that you see their effort and you're rooting for them. That's so much better than just giving advice they didn't ask for, you know?
It is. It's about being a companion, not a fixer.
Hmm.
And Mel even says, model the behavior that you want to see. Like if you want your friend to be healthier, don't lecture them about their diet. Invite them to go on a walk or cook healthy meals with them.
Oh, it's that whole show don't tell thing, right? Lead by example. That feels a lot more genuine and supportive.
It does, yeah. And sometimes the most powerful support you can give is just being there, listening without judging, giving a hug, just letting them know you care. Let them it can sometimes mean like let them cry on my shoulder, without me trying to give them a solution.
This whole conversation has been amazing. Like, let them it's so much more than just a saying. It's like a whole new way to approach life's challenges with more understanding and less stress.
It is. It really is. And it's about realizing that you don't have to be in control of everything to be happy. In fact, letting go of that need for control allows you to connect with people on a deeper level. You have more genuine relationships and just more peace overall.
That was so good. It's about going from a place of fear and control to a place of trust and acceptance. And not just accepting other people, but accepting ourselves too, right? Like all our imperfections.
Exactly. Let them is a reminder to let yourself be human. It's okay to mess up, to feel your feelings, to grow and evolve at your own pace.
I'm so ready to start using let them in my own life. It's like
Yes.
this tool for creating better relationships, stressing less, and just accepting that being human is kind of messy and that's okay.
It is a powerful tool. And remember, it's a journey. You're going to mess up sometimes. You're going to fall back into old habits, but that's okay. Just gently remind yourself, let them, let me.
Thank you so much for walking me through all of this. I feel like I have so many new ways to approach life and just be a better friend, partner,
Yeah.
human.
My pleasure. And to our listener, thank you so much for sharing your curiosity with us and letting us dive deep into this with you. Remember, the power to change your life is in your hands. Start with let them and see where it takes you.